Hello everyone, this is Taryn with Wonderfully Made Handcrafting, and today I'm working through day 30 of By the Well for God's November 2021 kit, One Another. Now day 30 is all about building one another up, especially as we see the day approaching. And so I have Paul's little verse in here, therefore encourage one another and build one another up just as you are doing in 1 Thessalonians 5:11. Then I also have the flashcard build up that I'll be using somewhere on the page. And then I also have this little girl. This was part of the clear stickers, but I did just back it with some white cardstock and fussy cut it out. I think she's really adorable. So I'm planning on using these three pieces. I also am going to try to do some Impresslits. So we'll see how that works because she is holding a leaf and I thought that would be pretty cute. So yeah, let's go get started. So I'm going to work on the leaves first. So I grabbed some Distress Oxides in the colors that I think match the girl and the cards. And I'm using craft paper. I really wanted to see how the Distress Oxides worked on craft paper because I know you can see them. The yellow wasn't super bright, obviously, but I did like the brown tones that it brought to the leaves. And so I'm going over with some fossilized amber, and then I'm using some oranges, a couple different oranges to bring that color in. And I'm just smushing them down on the page and drying them in between each layer. The oranges were kind of overtaking the yellow a little bit, but wait until I add this aged mahogany. This one really stood out and really kind of made it for me. That is what I liked, especially when it dried. It was this nice maroony kind of purple. So I thought that matched perfectly with the little girl's boots. And then I am also going to add just a smidge of fired brick because she is holding a red leaf in her hand. So I wanted to kind of try to bring in that red as well. Now, since I was using the Craft Heavy Stock, I knew I needed to use those Distress Oxides so that you could actually see the color on top of the craft paper. But also those Distress Oxides are going to be softer than the regular dye ink, than the regular Distress inks. So I knew that this whole look was going to be a very soft leaf color. I was debating whether or not to actually spray some resist spray on top of them. After I was done, that would have probably brought the color in a little bit more, like more glossy and not as soft. But I really liked how this ended up turning out. So I just kept the leaves the way they were. So here I am putting the Impresslits through my Big Shot. I did buy these Impresslits earlier in the season. Tim Holtz did announce that once Impresslits were sold out, they were gone for good. I'm really hoping that Sizzix is just working on something a little bit better maybe, because I love Impresslits. They're like my favorite thing ever. You get that embossed look and cut out at the same time. So some of my favorite things are Impresslits, which is just makes me a little bit sad, but I'm hoping that something new will just be coming out. With 3D Impresslits, you are going to want to run that through your Big Shot or machine 3 times. Remember, 3D 3 times. And I do spray the back of these first to help mold them into the embossing folder. And this one, the big oak leaf one, did crack a little bit, but that's okay with me. It adds to like the realness of the leaf. Obviously, leaves are going to crack. And so I kind of like that. So I'm going to go on and just kind of distress all the sides of these cards. And then I'm going to start working on layering everything together and figuring out how many leaves I really want on this page. I always try to stick with an odd number. So I was debating between 3 and 5 leaves, and ultimately I just chose 3. Here I am using my Barely Arts glue and starting to glue everything down, but then I remembered I didn't distress the edges and I want to bring more brown to these edges. I don't want them to be so white, so I am going to distress that and then also distress that library card as well. While I'm at it, I add just a little bit of brown to the edges of this die cut that I have, and then I'm going to work on pasting everything together and getting those leaves in place so I can start working on the background. These were just a little finicky to glue down because they are Impresslits, so they have a lot of bumps, and on these they kind of bump up as a leaf would, so it made it a little bit tricky, but I just held it for a little bit and that seemed to work well. After these leaves are all glued down, I'm going to work on popping up that girl with some foam adhesive. Like I've said before, I grabbed the wider version of the scrapbook.com foam adhesive. That way I can cut it to whatever shape I want, and I also get more bang for my buck. So that's just a little hack that I do. So once that girl's all set, I'll move her to the side without placing her yet, and I'm going to start working on my background. I grabbed a couple different oranges, yellows, and also that aged mahogany. Right here I'm using dried marigold. It's the lightest orange that I used, so I decided I would start with the base of that orange. I'm trying to kind of get that same tone as the library card and also the girl's jacket and the ephemera piece. That orange is pretty hard to match perfectly, so I figured that the dried marigold had the similar tones in it. So I start with that one, and then I also added in some spiced marmalade and wild honey, fossilized amber, and also that aged mahogany that's going to bring in those leaves and also the girl's rain boots. I'm trying to brighten up the page just a smidge since those leaves are more of a natural, darker color of leaf. So I want to bring in something else that's going to match the girl and not make her look out of place. Now I love having these blending brushes to create different backgrounds. A subscriber actually sent them to me. I was so thankful for them. But I know that By the Well for God actually sells a set in their shop, and they are wonderful for creating backgrounds like this where you're just trying to blend different colors together and cover a wide amount of space. I'm really liking how this background is turning out and all the colors that it's bringing to this cluster and how it's making that girl not look out of place. But I did decide that I wanted to bring some richer tones back into the background, so I'm taking that aged mahogany and putting it in 3 different places on the page because I want to make that triangle look that's most pleasing to the eye. So I'm not making it perfect, but I'm kind of making that triangle look with the aged mahogany color because it's going to be the darkest and most apparent in the background. I do want to add a little bit more texture and movement to this background so it's not so flat. So I'm going to grab my distress sprayer and spritz the background with some water. Now I do just do a half pull so I don't get a huge splotch of water everywhere. That gives you those little spritzes everywhere. And I'm going to pick it up with some paper towel, and then I'm going to kind of wet it a little bit and do it one more time. And then I will make sure to dry it with my heat gun. I want to make sure that it's nice and dry before I move on to my next task. So I absolutely love this scattered acorn stencil that was released along with the One Another kit. And so I want to make sure I use it as much as I can during this devotional study. So I did take some texture paste and I'm putting that through this stencil in 3 different places along the background, same places as the aged mahogany basically, so I can make that triangle look again. But I did do a page where I did the stencil all over the background and that looked really cool. And I was kind of debating and doing that again, but I decided to just do it in 3 different places for this one since I have so much color and texture going on in the background. My stencil must have slipped here a little bit, but no worries. It's easy to clean up as long as you clean it up fast with texture paste. And that is something else you want to remember for your stencil. As soon as you're done with your stencil using texture paste, you want to bring it to the sink and wash it out with warm water. That way it doesn't get stuck in all the cracks and ruin your stencil. So here I am looking at the setup. I think I want the girl in the lower left-hand corner, but hold on, you'll see I decide to move her a little bit. I end up gluing down the whole cluster and then pulling it up and re-gluing it down again, because I feel like the girl in the center of the cluster looks better because you'll have that bright color in the center of the cluster and then also in the background. It also looks kind of cute because it kind of grounds the girl and it makes her look like she's stomping on that leaf. But you can see here, I kind of place it. I'm like, nope, that doesn't look right. And here I go. I'm like, yes, I think it looks better on that leaf. So I'm going to move that cluster down a little bit so I take up more of the page, and then I'll place her down on that leaf looking like she's stomping on it. Now that I moved that girl to the center of the cluster, I really like it, but it also makes me feel like I'm missing something underneath that flashcard. So I take this little lace remnant that I had from doing my pocket journaling Bible, and I'm just going to place that underneath the card, smush it down, and I think it really pulls everything together and adds that extra texture that I needed. And after that, this page will be done. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. I will link the next video to be the one that I did the whole stencil in the background. And if you want to see all the products that I used in this page, I will link those all down below in the description. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.